The format of this retreat is very simple. It's about one thing and one thing only, which is the yoga of radiant presence. Now, exactly what that means will become clearer, I hope, through the course of this evening. So there's not a lot of things to try to assimilate, try to remember, try to process, try to make sense of. Just one thing. This one principle is the entire basis of genuine spirituality, is the entire basis of what has been called spiritual confusion or delusion and what is called realization or enlightenment. This one principle. And it can be addressed directly. And this principle is the actuality of your experience. Simply put, learning what the actuality of your experience is, or more accurately, noticing what the actuality of your experience really is, and noticing especially how profoundly and utterly it diverges from what we're used to thinking it is, affects a spontaneous, automatic, unconscious reorientation to your experience, which is what's called liberation, which is what's called realization. It's not anything you have to do. It has absolutely nothing to do with your actions, with how you hold yourself, with how you think, with your behavior. It's simply about noticing what is actually present right here, right now. What this presence is. Your experience is present. And what is it that is present? What is it that is present? Simply discovering and noticing and giving some attention to that fact, that condition exactly as it is, again, affects a complete unconscious reorientation to your experience that is profound in its effect in terms of what you feel like to yourself, what your life feels like. In a condition of misunderstanding, our lives can feel stuck, we can feel small, we can feel insecure, we can feel dependent upon circumstances, we can feel terrified of death, we can feel terrified of disease, we can feel terrified of bad luck, we can feel terrified of other people. In short, we can feel terrified. When we discover what this actually is, you have absolute first-hand, self-verifying, undeniable presentation of the fact that things aren't like that. There is nothing whatsoever that is undependable, that is unreliable, that is incomplete, that is a basis for suffering, that is a basis for panic or fear or catastrophizing about the future. So what is it that is actually present? What is it that's actually present? Well, clearly your experience, right? Can you find anything other than your experience that's present? It's like your experience is here and then there's something else somewhere sitting, impinging itself on you. Can you find anything like that? So, the yoga of radiant presence is about what this is that is present that we call experience. What this is that is present. Your experience alone exists. Nothing other than your experience exists. Your experience is like a bubble. And anything that is actual is appearing within that bubble. Look at the facts. When you look at the sun, where is the sun appearing? Within your experience. Can you see the sun or experience the sun outside of your experience? Can it be done? Clearly not. It's very much like a dream. Right? When you're dreaming, obviously anything you happen to dream is appearing within the dream. Can you dream anything outside the dream? So, it sounds maybe kind of trite or kind of simple and obvious, but if you look at the fact of it, your experience is a bubble that contains the entirety of reality, as far as you know, as far as you can tell. Pay attention to the actuality of your own experience, and by that I just mean the presence of your experience. it's really easy to sort of numb out and get hypnotized and get, spaced out on the words and sort of get into a passive condition. So don't be passive. Be actively engaged with the presence of your experience. Be actively feeling the presence of your experience. It's much more important than any words I say. The words I say are not nearly as important as the sound you're hearing when you hear me speak. What you see is not nearly as important as the light you see when you're seeing, so on and so forth. So notice this and pay attention to this. And so watch out for slipping into passivity or slipping into credulity and just sort of numbly following along and just sort of being a receptor. You don't be a receptor. Be an engager. Be engaged with the presence and the actuality of your experience, however it's showing up. What goes right along with that is be authentic. Be genuine. If things are being tossed around here and you think it's bullshit or you can't connect with it, own it. That's how it is for me. That's much more important. It's much more important for you to be in the actuality of where you are, where you feel you are, than to try to approximate or be pretending to conform or aspiring to fitting into some kind of notion of how you think it's supposed to be or you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to be seeing. Rest in your actual condition at the moment. And that, is sort of goes hand in hand with being with the actuality of your experience. The whole essence of Yoga of Radiant Presence is to notice how much you are used to orienting towards things by what you think they are, and shift to noticing what is actually present, which is not defined, is it? You can define. You can look at me and you can say, there's this guy sitting there and he's male and he's wearing a brownish t-shirt and this, that, and the other, and so there's all these definitions and labels. But that's not what you're actually seeing. What are you seeing? Well, you can't say what you're seeing. You're seeing light. What is light? You can't say what light is. So right away, the actuality of the experience of me is something completely other than any narration or any interpretation you could come up with about what I am or what it is you're seeing. And typically, as humans in our modern culture, and maybe throughout most cultures, we're very used to relating to our experience in terms of these narratives and definitions, to the point we don't even notice we're doing it. Oh, this is a room. Oh, we're people. Oh, this is a spiritual retreat. Oh, this, that, and the other. We have all these narratives and labels and definitions that we unconsciously and effortlessly apply to our experience. And we may have a tendency to relate to our experience as if it actually was that. This is not a room. I am not a human being. You are not a human being. This is not a computer. So we're going to be playing with this. We're going to be exploring this. And again, don't worry about it. It's not a matter of being a Nazi or trying to pretend to be nonverbal. It's just a matter of noticing how verbal we are, how unconsciously verbal we are, and how all of our words and ideas coexist in this spontaneous presence, which is entirely nonverbal, right? Right now, your field of vision is full of light, right? And there's not a word to be seen. There are no words present few words. There are no words present in your field of vision. It's all light. There's no words there. There's no ideas present in your field of vision. It's color. It's texture. And of course, color and texture are ideas, but the actuality that they refer to are not, are they? This is real vision. What you're experiencing is real vision. And the fact that you may be able to think about it does not affect the vision itself. So when I look around and I think, this is a room, what I'm seeing doesn't change by me calling it a room. That's an idea which occurs in the field of my mentality, let's say. So there's this notion of room in my mind, but what But what my vision is seeing doesn't change, does it? Even though we are so verbal and so conceptual spontaneously, that verbality and that conceptuality exists as a relatively small field of event in a vast, spontaneous presence of experience, which is entirely non-verbal. Your entire field of vision is non-verbal, non-conceptual. Your entire field of sound is non-verbal, non-conceptual. Now I'm sitting here talking, you may think, oh, I'm saying words. I'm not saying words, I'm making sounds, I'm making noises, I'm singing. And yet your mind can generate a thought stream that interprets these sounds as if they were words and formulates them as if they were ideas and generates a whole elaborate scenario as if it referred to something that you can extract meaning from. But that's all happening in your mind. That's not happening in your hearing. Your hearing. That is no more verbal than that is. I mean, I can be talking like this, or nothing happened, nothing changed. But the mind goes, wait a minute, he stopped talking. It's the same thing. Sound is non-conceptual. Sound is non-verbal. Sound is actual presence. Light is actual presence. Sensation of touch, experience of your body, experience of contact, is actual presence. Taste and smell, actual presence. Now here's the kicker, here's the big one. Thought is actual presence. Thought is not ideas. Thought is not words. Thought is not concepts. Thought is the presence of a subtle field of dynamic energy that is just like the presence of the subtle field of dynamic energy that fills your field of vision. That's just like the presence of the subtle field of dynamic energy that fills your hearing, and so on and so forth. And it's easy to notice this because even when you're thinking words and ideas, there's all this other sort of little buzzy, hummy stuff going on in the background. It's not really about anything. It's just sort of vague little moods and vibes and flavors, right? And every now and then we something sort of surfaces like a big wave on the ocean. We go, oh, there's a thought, and oh, I'm thinking about such and such. But again, that's a kind of a piggybacking on this presence of a field of spontaneously present dynamic energy that we can call mentality, that we can call mental energy, whatever. And the mental energy is always full. Now, all of the fields of your experience are always full. Your field of vision is always full. It's never empty. It's full from end to end and from top to bottom, right? Not that you can find a top and a bottom, it gets a little fuzzy, but it's full, it's always full. You close your eyes, it's still full. I mean, it's full of this little kind of vague little flickers or whatever, but it's still full, right? You go to sleep, it's still full. You start dreaming, it's still full. So your field of vision is always full. There's never a point where it is any less or more content in your field of vision. Same, of course, applies to field of hearing, field of sensation, so on and so forth, and field of mentality. The field of mentality is always full, even if you're not thinking about anything. And any of you that have experienced with intense meditation will know about this very obviously. You learn a lot about thought when you try and stop thinking. Another really useful principle in the yoga of radiant presence is that the main principle of navigating is curiosity. Your attention doesn't go where you try and put it. Your attention goes where it's drawn because it goes, oh, that's really interesting. Oh. Our attention is very much like a 3-year-old at a carnival or something. And it's like, oh, well, oh. And if you look at your attention, you'll notice this. It's always the case. It's always been the case. You're sitting having a conversation with something and your thoughts drift off and you see something over there. It's not like you decided to look over there. Your attention just sort of goes over there because it's interesting. It's curious. Your attention is curious. Your attention is interested. Your attention is very vibrant with this kind of curiosity. So seduction, curiosity, is the main navigating principle within experience, not intention, not aspiration, not willpower. So, there's nothing that exists but the bubble of your experience. And what is present in your experience, we're used to calling, light, sound, thought, sensation. If you look really closely, what is light? Well, it's kind of a very sort of a high frequency, radiant vibration or something, right? Whatever. I mean, obviously you can't grasp that, you can't categorize it, but it's this present, instantaneous vibrancy that occurs within a certain field of quality that we effortlessly identify as light, right? What is sound? Well, likewise, sound is also a spontaneous present vibrancy, isn't it? It's kind of maybe a different frequency range, different sort of a textural quality than what we call light, but it's basically the same kind of stuff. It's sort of an instantaneous buzzing. Well, light's an instantaneous buzzing too, on a different frequency. Well, what is sensation? Well, you feel sensation. What is it? How do you know you're touching something? It's this tingling. Touch. We may be used to thinking or imagining our touch is fairly constant, but if you touch something, if you actually feel something, you'll notice it instantaneously refreshes and vibrates and tingles and sparkles. So again, we look at touch, we discover a very similar dynamic quality, a similar dynamic instantaneous presence. And so what is thought? Well, thought is very interesting, isn't it? Thought is something. There's a substance there. How do you know you're thinking? You know you're thinking because there is something present. Just like you know you're seeing because there's something present. Now we have a word for what's present when you're seeing, which is light. And thought, thought sounds kind of abstract. What is thought? Well, we don't usually think of thought as a stuff. But thought, if you look at what is present when you in thought, when you're thinking in the mind, it is actually a dynamic textural presence. It's a dynamic, a vibrant quality. It's very tenuous, right? It's very, it's hard to qualify what it is, but it's not nothing. It's something. There's stuff there, in the same sense that there's stuff in your field of vision and stuff in your field of hearing. There's a stuff. There's a quality. There's a substance, a substantiality to thought. And you know that thought is happening, you know you're thinking when you experience this substantial presence, which is dynamic, right? It's vibratory, it's tingly, like all of our sense experiences are. They're tingly when we look at them close, they're sparkly, they're alive, they're instantaneously flashing in the present moment only. Instead of having these words like light and sound and touch and thought and all these different words for something which is essentially the same thing, maybe in different frequencies or what have you, I've coined or appropriated a word to cover that entire gamut of what is present as experience. And I call it radiance. So if you look at light, you're actually looking at radiance. If you look at sound, you're actually looking at radiance. If you look at thought, you're actually looking at radiance. Not that radiance defines it, radiance is just a word, but again, it refers to and it unifies the substance of what is present. Because something is present, right? I mean, when you're seeing, something is present. Light is really obviously present. It's not like you have to, it's not like it's a stretch or a reach to get that light is present. It's completely obvious. It's intuitively plain. And likewise with sound, likewise with sensation, and likewise with thought. And what is present is this radiance. So, what are some of the qualities of this radiance? Well, it's actual. It's actual. It's actually here. It's actually present within your experience. This radiance is present. Light is present. Sound is present. Sensation is present. Thought is present, right? I mean, this is plain to see. You don't need to go out to them. You don't need to reach out to them. It's not like they're somewhere hidden off and somewhere and you have to somehow make a lot of effort to bridge the gap. On the contrary, it comes to you. You can't shut it off. Try and stop light. Try and stop your field of vision. You can't do it, obviously, because light shines. Light shines. Light always shines. You close your eyes and light shines. You go to sleep and light shines. So, radiance is present. Radiance is dynamic. It's always sparkling, tingling, buzzing, flashing. It's, like fireflies dancing around. If you look at the texture of your experience, you will notice this. What is the texture of light like? Well, obviously you can't answer these questions in words because that defeats the purpose. And it's also impossible because this actuality that is present is nonverbal, it's non-conceptual. And it turns out it's infinite, so it could not be conceptualized even if you were, the ultimate genius of analysis, of conceptualization. You would not be able to say what this is. You would not be able to put it into concepts because it is infinite. It's this absolute flickering dynamism. And it's absolutely instantaneous, isn't it? Your experience happens only right now. Try and find the past. Experientially, try and find the past. Of course, we all have the idea of the past. We all know where we were yesterday. But that's an idea, isn't it? Experientially, try and find the past. Obviously, it can't be done. Try and find the future. It can't be done. Now here's the fun one. Try and find the present. Well, it's right here. Okay, what does that mean? How long does the present moment last? Is it here? Is it sitting here? Or is it what? Well, you can't say. You can't say, can you? But it's momentary. It's instantaneous. It's not temporal. Time does not work the way we usually think of it as working as just sort of a flow. You can't find a flow. I mean, there's nothing, So you look at the present moment, like look back just a hair into the past. It's like there's nothing. You step off a cliff. There's nothing there. Look a tiny bit into the future. There's nothing there. So there's just this instantaneous moment, which is continually changing in the way it presents itself in terms of the qualities that are present. Right? I mean, there's no experience whatsoever that has any stability, that has any persistence, right? You look at anything, even if you say, well, it's not moving, nothing's happening, but your experience of it is changing, your experience of it is flickering, it's flashing. These things, in the field of vision, for example, we're all used to supposing that the things we're looking at are relatively stable and sitting there, and so we're very numb with imposing that conceptualization on our field of vision. But a real easy experiment to perform is to close your eyes and look at the field of vision there, where there's no objects in particular. And you will discover, well, what's present? Well, there's this very subtle sort of a glowing and flickering and little tiny, tiny, tiny flashes, instantaneous, that sort of come and go, and they sort of group together in various apparent groupings or whatever, but you can't find any stability whatsoever. You can't find anything that actually persists or is stable in the field of vision. The light itself, when your eyes are closed, is just fluid. It's totally unstable. And then you open your eyes, and you're seeing patterns that are relatively apparently stable, but they're all made up of the same fluidity. And you can a good experiment to do is look at a blank wall or something, and when you look at it, you're seeing the wall, and you close your eyes and look at this and become accustomed to that dynamism. Then open your eyes again, look at the wall, close your eyes and look at the dynamism. And very quickly you'll see that your experience of the wall is just as dynamic as your experience when your eyes are closed. And then you can look at more complex images and you'll discover the same thing. You'll discover that, you look at someone's face and it's morphing and breathing and changing and we typically don't notice this because we're very used to imposing a conceptual stability on things. Oh, I'm looking at you, so you look like you, and of course you look like you, which glosses over the details of the actual morphing, the experiential dynamism of vision. And of course we find this in all sense fields and all sense experience. So the radiance is the only thing that's present. You can't find anything present other than the radiance. I mean, it might look like light, it might look like thought, it might look like sensation, it might look like sound, and so on and so forth. But you can't find anything present, anything actual, other than this radiance, this substance of experience, this substance that presents itself as experience. So any experience is made of this dynamism of radiance. And there is nothing else. There is nothing else. This is another aspect of the radiant presence, is that there's no medium. The radiance is felt here. And what feels it is here. There's no gap to be bridged. There's no there and here. It's just radiance. Radiant presence here. And it feels itself here. So if radiance is being felt, what is feeling it? What is it that's feeling it? You look and you try and find, what's feeling radiance? Well, you can't find anything, can you? The apparition of radiance is it's being felt. So you see light. Right now you see light. The light is being felt experientially, right? And where is it being felt? It's being felt in the light, in the presence of the light. The light is feeling itself. There's sound present. You're hearing sound. You're hearing me talk. You're hearing, echoes in the room and rustles and what have you. Where is that happening? It's happening in the sound. The sound is being felt in the sound. So on and so forth. Thinking, where is thinking being felt? Where is thought being felt? Well, it's being felt in thought. Thought feels itself. So the radiance feels itself. This is very different than we're used to thinking of. We're used to thinking of, I'm over here somewhere and my experience is out there and I'm sort of feeling my experience and there's somehow this gap is being bridged by some mysterious sensoria or what have you, right? But look at it up close. Look at it experientially and strip it down to its bare elements. All light is present, and that presence is the experience of it being present. There's no extra components in there. There's no experiencer. There's no medium of experience. It's just light is present is the experience of light. Sound is present is the experience of sound. So there's direct engagement. The radiance is directly engaged with itself, and that's the only thing happening here. So what is being experienced is radiance. What is experiencing is radiance. So we have these words, experienced and experiencing, like a subject and object. They're fiction. But again, play with this for yourself, explore it for yourself. Look at this.